Oh, so fabulous.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel once again. It's your girl Dumebi. If this is your first time coming across my channel, you're welcome. I do hope you decide to subscribe, and if you are a returning subscriber, you guys know that I love you. It's so good to have you here. Welcome back. So before we get into today's video, my usual disclaimer: this video is strictly for educational purposes. Please do not go searching out the people that I talk about in this video. Do not send them any form of hate comments, threats, or violence. This channel does not support any of that. So I came across this very interesting, eye-opening video by a palm-colored man. He had a lot to say about white culture and why they do the things they do as a form of self-preservation, and how he has been passed down from generation to generation. Let's just go right ahead and play his clip right now.
Folks, I hate to say it, but white folks are largely professional gaslighters when it comes to race. We are professional liars when it comes to race. It's part of why supremacy and how it functions and how it works. From the very first African that was enslaved, we have been gaslighting black folks as white people. That's our culture. That's our tradition. That's our indoctrination. And that's what we do. And that's what we do best. We lie every single day. And we lie to black people. We lie to each other. We lie to ourselves about race. We gaslight. Gaslight, if you don't know, it's a psychological term. It's where the abuser tells the victim that this reality of you being abused is not really happening. It's just something in your imagination. You're being paranoid. You're being too sensitive. All this abuse is not real. And if it is real, it's only because you deserved it. I was trying to help you. It's justified somehow. We have always justified our racism. And if we're not justifying it, we're denying it. If we're not denying it, then we're deflecting it. The last thing white people would do is simply acknowledge the truth racially. That's why I say we're bullshit artists. We are professional fucking liars and gaslighters. That's exactly what we do as white people, and that's the truth. And if you deny it, you're a fucking liar. 90% of white people today, right now in America, no matter how young or how old, we've been so profoundly indoctrinated that we cannot simply acknowledge the truth racially. Can't do it. And if we do it, there's a but or a deflection. Can't do it. 90% of us will not do it. So this is why we are gaslighting academically. This is why Black history all around America right now is being criminalized. That tradition of gaslighting, that tradition of hiding, that tradition of pretending racism is not real is their educational system. And they want to protect that tradition. They do not want the truth to be out. People know that the hope is with the younger generation. Isn't that what they always say? I hope the younger people, I hope the next generation will do better. They know that if the truth ever gets taught racially, that's why CRT is banned. That's why if you talk about race, it's banned. All around America, states, counties, schools, teachers, threat of arrest, black stories, beautiful black books, banned, erased, censored, libraries, empty, criminalization of black history, folks. Because why? Because white people are White people are all about denying. White people are all about gaslighting. That's our tradition. Deny, deflect, never teach the truth, never acknowledge the truth. Because if we do, if we teach the truth, what will happen? White supremacy could be threatened. Economic advantages for white people, the dominant position could be threatened. They're threatened, like all bullies are threatened. They're threatened by their victims. So of course they don't want the truth to be taught. So what do? They keep it whitewashed. They keep the lies perpetrating, the narratives, the whitewashing. Pretend George Washington, Andrew Jackson were heroes as they owned hundreds of slaves. Keep pretending, keep denying, keep whitewashing. Let's not learn about black heroes. Let's not learn about black stories. Let's not learn about black history. Let's not learn about black contributions. Why? because that would be the truth. And that's not our tradition. We're supposed to promote whiteness. That's how white nationalism works. They pretend that, we're innocent. We're trying to protect the sensitivity of our white children. No, you're not. You're trying to keep white supremacy and your privilege alive. You want to be on top the same way that your parents wanted to be on top and their parents wanted to be on top. That's how white supremacy works. It's a power thing. The idea of dismantling white supremacy cannot happen until we can teach our children the truth.
So when I watched that video, I was like, wow, it's always a breath of fresh air when I see one of them come out and say things. Basically, they are telling us things that we already know, but a lot of them would never admit it, right? So he said a lot of things, and I have some thoughts on that. But before I say what I think, let me go right ahead and play some of the stitches and responses to what he had to say.
Professional gaslighters when it comes to race.
First of all, can I just say thank you to all of our comrades on that side of the fence. I appreciate you. Thank you. Because I live in a redheader town in California. I live in an area where there is not a lot of diversity, but they are continuously protesting the idea of diversity or inclusivity because heavens to bits. Now, is it just me? Well, obviously it's not just me because our brother over there has called it out. But it's the same people who are talking about racism doesn't exist anymore. I don't even see color. Those people are the same ones talking about no more CRT. The people talking about, don't you know all black people are violent? Do the research. First of all, that's rich coming from someone who barely passed the 3rd grade, but we're going to skip that. Second of all, it's also rich coming from people who have never had an actual black friend in their life. Those are always the ones talking about, look it up, educate yourself. Don't you know that all black people are like this? I'm so confused. Which one was it? Are we all horrible, or does race not exist? Which one is it? The ones who don't know anything about black history in this country are the same ones who will be quick to say, I don't believe that fact you just said because I didn't hear about it in school. So you acknowledge that you have missed out on information that you should have been taught in school but weren't, yet you are protesting against any information being taught at all because, heaven forbid, it might cause white guilt. The children might find out that their grandparents, Grammy over there who gives them $20 every Christmas, was one of the main people throwing rocks when the schools desegregated. Yeah, they're still alive and still pulling strings and still protesting and still holding board positions. The very people who was pouring bleach in desegregated pools and rocks at black students going to desegregated schools are now sitting there going, yeah, no, we don't see the point in talking about that. That would just make people feel bad. We're not going to acknowledge that. In fact, we're not going to acknowledge any cultural heritage whatsoever. Honestly, Temecula may as well just change its slogan to White Power.
White folks are largely professional gaslighters when it comes to race. We are.
Okay, and see, this is why I don't get into race talk with Caucasians because for the most part, it's a waste of time. If you've ever dealt with the narcissist before, if you didn't learn anything else, you learned that you wasted your time with them. I had one the other day. I was in the car with my children and we were waiting on my husband to come out, and he came up. He started the conversation off with something we can agree on. That's how they always do before they gaslight you or try to reprogram you. He came up and he asked me that I know that the original man and woman, like Adam and Eve, were black. And I'm like, yeah, I knew that. And from there, he just like flowed into like every racist talking point you want to think of, from the first slave owner in America being black, the Irish slaves, white people being abused by cops. I mean, you think of it, he went there. Now, sidebar, had my husband went up to his wife and started a conversation about the Black Panthers or anything like that, there's a possibility he wouldn't have survived that trip. So, but anyway, that's a sidebar. I let this man talk. He talked and talked and talked. And I could have debunked everything he said, but I didn't. I just listened. And when he was done, I chose to use my little buzzword with him. I got a buzzword that kind of like makes him combust. It's called reparations. So when he got done talking, I said, I think everything would have been better had we gotten reparations and separation. I mean, he was red. He was hot. He was livid. And he said, you don't think the Union soldiers need reparations? I said, well, yeah. I said, but you fail to realize we were Union soldiers too. So you fail to realize there's not an atrocity in America that we haven't experienced with you guys. I said, even to the building of America, we built more. I said, the only thing we haven't been included in America is restoration. I said, we have never been restored. And we also, by and large, have not been included in the American dream. I said, but if you want to get into the suffering Olympics, I said, we're going to win. We're going to win that every time. Because we have suffered in everything America has went through, and America has not suffered with us, and also hasn't done anything to restore us. So that's the way I do. I don't try to like reprogram or try to re-educate. It's a waste of time. You understand? If they don't know by now, they'll never know. Chances are they'll never know. And also, if they can't see truth by now, chances are they're not looking for truth. So we have to be very selective about our time and how we're spending it. Don't waste your time on this.
But white folks are largely professional gaslighters when it comes to race.
Oye, mira, go watch the rest of his video. It's a little long, but it's very worth it. One of the most interesting things that I realize when I listen to messages like this is how white people, not all white people, but most white people, internalize this message. When they hear white people, they hear all white people. Because my white people out there who are doing the work, who really understand what flammability is and fragility, and they see the problem and they can identify where the problems lie all across our systems and publicly and between races, and they understand the disconnect. When they hear messages like this, they're unfazed. They agree. They're in the comment section saying, he's 100% right. He says 90% of white people do what he explains in that video, and I happen to agree. But unfortunately, the issue of racism spans far beyond just racist white people, because white supremacy has injected itself in communities of color, which is why you hear people on TikTok who are Mexican or Puerto Rican bash their own people. You'll also see black people bashing black people. Now, more than ever, white supremacy, not just racism, white supremacy, the very glue that holds racism together in our country, is being threatened at such extreme levels. And most white people understand this, and they're very uncomfortable. This is why messages like this are extremely important to ingest, to help you sit back and take a look from the outside in and say, wow, is he right? What am I doing? How am I contributing to this bullshit? No matter the color of your skin, no matter your ethnicity, what do your biases look like? How do you handle traditional stereotypes? What role are you playing in the dismantling of this system? Have a level of self-awareness that you've never had before. Learn from it, because education is the key to progress. The minute you step on that path, the better we become as a society. Keep up the fight.
Gaslighters when it comes to race. We are...
Yep, white people's superpower is denial. It is denial. And it's been going on for generations and generations. So depending on how many generations it's been going on, it's so embedded into the white people, like it's in your blood. It's like it's instinctively so in you that when anybody tries to question you about it, you guys freak out, because for you, for white people, it feels right because it's been going on for that long. And I think all the generations of denial that you guys have accumulated and not dealing with reality and truth made white people go insane in the membrane. And as we all know, this denial comes from white supremacy. It's to make sure to keep you and your reality in your place, so white people feel comfortable with their limited reality and limited experience in life. Because as you know, white people live in a white bubble.
That's why whenever you bring up any criticism to white people, or you try to talk any real stuff, like just bring up any truth, white people freak out. I've never seen reaction like that from any other cultures before, where you bring up just a factual, reality-based, like just truth, and white people can't handle it. It's the weirdest thing ever. It's like you're murdering them or something if they can't handle the truth. And I think all these generations of denial has caused insanity in the white culture. I'm gonna say it. Yeah, I think it's caused a lot of mental illnesses in the white culture. I think narcissism is rampant. I think just delusion is rampant. And I think always chasing that excitement, chasing that drug, or chasing that, you know, climbing Mount Everest and just crazy stuff like that, so that you don't have to deal with the actual reality of what's right in front of you. It's always chasing something outside that's superficial. That's why people are so performative. And from my experience of having relationships with white friends, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them, doesn't go very deep. It's always on the superficial, on the shallow, on the outside of, hey, what can you do for me? Where can you get me?
Folks, I hate to say it, but white folks are largely professional gaslighters.
So last night before I was going to bed, there was a video that popped up on my timeline of a creator criticizing two prominent black TikTokers on here about wanting white people to give a fuck about Black History Month, and even went as far as being like, we don't need white people to approve it, we don't need white people to like it, we don't need white people saying it, this should be a time to celebrate and uplift black people. And this video about gaslighting is very perfectly timed as a result, because this is exactly why we need white people to give any semblance of a f about Black History Month. Like, this is your reminder we kicked off the month with a white TikToker literally stealing a black TikToker's content and trying to pass it off as her own. That is the literal type of shit that comes from white people disrespecting Black History Month. Because it was never about sharing the history, it was about seeing the video, seeing the potential for clicks, and stealing accordingly. Which again, is maximum Columbus energy. Like, in absolute earnest, I don't give a f about, well, many of us don't give a f about whether or not it makes us more approachable or palatable or likable or anything like that. We are not saying white people should actually acknowledge Black History Month because we are hoping to be their BFFs. We're saying that they should be better about acknowledging things like Black History Month because that requires them to sit in the discomfort with the fact that a lot of their fucking ancestors are nowhere near as revolutionary as they wrote themselves off to be. It requires them to step back and say a lot of the things that we do and engage in modern day society are a direct side effect of the work, blood, sweat, and tears of a lot of the Black community and honestly a lot of the indigenous community. This is your everyday reminder that Afro-Indigenous people exist, and you should definitely be celebrating them this month. The issue never stemmed from wanting the approval and the acceptance. It stemmed from the performativeness of just wanting to steal shit from us and saying that that is their way of acknowledging and honoring us. And I would like to think that we are not so far up shit creek that the idea of white people earnestly acknowledging Black History Month is a weird ask, because like quite literally the month is there to celebrate our history, which is American history. And saying or even implying that we don't need white people to get engaged with that is kind of the gaslighting in action, because that is generations of being convinced that we don't need the people who did us dirty to acknowledge that they did us dirty. Years of not that much bad happened to you being repurposed as we don't need them to acknowledge that it happened at all.
Now that we've heard what everybody had to say, if I'm to add my own 2 cents, he talked about how white people are professional gaslighters, and we see that happening today. people that do the whole racism doesn't exist, white supremacy doesn't exist, there's no such thing as white privilege, stuff like that. They are the people that we're talking about. Another thing he said is that they make up lies to kind of excuse their racism, and that is so true. They have been doing it over the years. You see them talking about how, oh, the black man is not smart enough, black people are not smart enough to think for themselves, that's why they need the guidance of a white person. That is what they used to justify slavery. Black people cannot govern themselves, they cannot make the right decision, they are not even a full human being, they are 3/5 of a human being. You see the way they make up these lies to justify the things that they do, to justify their wickedness over generations. Even over here in Africa, they talk about how black people are savage, we cannot govern ourselves, that's why they need to help us with governing ourselves. And even till this modern day, they want to help us with democracy. I saw a clip in one of that where black people were like, keep your politics to yourselves, we are our own people, we can rule ourselves. That is how colonialism came about. These people are not, they are savage, we need to come and civilize them. They came to Africa, they destroyed, they made us question our culture, our spirituality. They made us buy into the whole idea of white supremacy. Even till now, the effect of that brainwashing that has been done is still being felt. We are still fighting it as a people. So everything that man said really got me thinking. They've sold a lot of lies to justify their racism, to justify their white supremacy, and they will keep doing it. That is why they want to whitewash history. What is happening in Black America today? They don't want the proper history to be taught. You know, it's just surprising as to how much evil a particular group of people can be done that years down the line, centuries down the line, even their descendants cannot bear for the truth to be spoken. When you try to say the truth of what they have done over these centuries, it begins to look like you're attacking them, and they start to play the victim. So now their descendants want to detach themselves from, in quote, the evils that were perpetrated by their ancestors. But it doesn't stop them from reaping the benefits, though. It doesn't stop them from upholding those standards that favor them, though. It doesn't. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think in the comment section about this whole thing, and let's just have a conversation. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and please share. Also turn on post notifications, that way YouTube will let you guys know whenever I have a new video up, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.